Edinburgh, the Athens of the North, Auld Reekie, the festival city. Whatever they call it, each year millions of visitors are attracted to the jewel in the Scottish Tourist Board's crown. But Scotland's capital is also home to a famous football club, a glorious football club, which rejoices in the name of Hibernian. On St Patrick's Day 1991, Edinburgh's Sheraton Hotel was the venue as players past and present gathered with fans for a glittering appreciation dinner in honour of one of Hibernian's greatest and best-loved footballing sons. Following sterling efforts by the organising committee, the pieces of the jigsaw were about to be set in place for what was to prove an unforgettable occasion. For Pat Stanton, the evening was a chance to meet old friends, and no doubt to reflect nostalgically on a career which saw him give magnificent service to Hibernian for 14 years, play 16 times for his country, and in the twilight of that illustrious career, win Scottish Cup and Championship badges with Celtic. Yes, it was an evening for everyone to recall the special talents of the great Pat Stanton, as well as to remember affectionately those other great stars whose skills had graced the hallowed turf of Easter Road and brought such glory and prestige to the name of Hibernian. Stars like, for instance, Gordon Smith, Bobby Johnston, Laurie Riley, Eddie Turnbull and Willie Ormond. Known collectively as the famous Five, they made up the greatest club forward line in the history of British football.
Situations. It's 5 men in the box. In goes Stanton. He's done it again. 21.5 minutes. Hibernian 1, Motherwell 0.
It's wonderful to be asked along here to pay a tribute to Pat, because he's been a friend of mine for many, many years, as many of the older Hibs players are. I'm getting into the young ones now, but that's an offence. To be invited along tonight, and I said to myself, well, there's two absolutely wonderful comics on the boat tonight, Bill Barkley and Gary Dennis being here, so I decided to be a wee bit different tonight. So what I did, I got some research. I'd like to thank David Hardy from the Evening News. He sent me through a lot of bumps on Pat. So I wrote this wee monologue. It's my tribute and your tribute to Pat Stanton. Go some of this. He's a gentleman and a scholar, I'm sure you will agree. He arrived at Easter Road in 1963. He made a scoring debut. Motherwell was the game. It was the birth of a Highview legend. Pat Stanton was the name. He played it inside left that day, but was soon to play a lot deeper. In fact, when the 4-2-4 formation came in, Pat was Hibs for sweeper. A partnership was formed that day that became a formidable three. There was Pat himself, John Manson the Dane, and Johnny McNamee. Pat was great at tackling, always steadfast and sure, and Tommy Dockery once stated that he was better than Bobby Moore. He won his first cap against the Danes in 1966, and Craigie Beach here was quoted as saying that our Pat was a box of tricks. It was early in the 70s, Pat took over the captain's role, and some silverware for Hibs trophy room became his immediate goal. Victory was not far away, and for the Hibs fans it was nice. For the Highways won the Driver a Cup, not just once, but twice. The ice Acting soon talked to cake, as every Hibs fan knew, when Hibernian won the League Cup in 1972. Pat lead on one of the goals and scored the other himself, and suddenly Hibernian Football Club were in the best of health. Alas, came that awful time when Easter Road grew dark. That dreadful day in '76 when Pat left for Celtic Park. Grown-up men cried that day, there were tears in many an eye. How can you let Pat Stanton go? You could hear the fans all cry. But that's the way that football goes. You cannot dwell in the past. So as a token to a legend, Hibs flew their flags half-mast. 2 fruitful years Pat spent with that team from through the West, and when next he played at Easter Road, we saw Pat at his best. Alas, our Pat became unwell. He was past his sell-by date. So he retired from playing football in 1978. But football was in Pat's blood, or so it would truly seem, for then Pat came assistant up at Aberdeen. Many a success came Pat's way while in the Granite City, but everyone wants to be their own man when you get down to the nitty-gritty. Pat's an Edinburgh man, born and bred, so back him he came to be boss instead. He was boss at Dunfermline and again at Cowdenbeath, and suddenly Pat Stanton took the bit between his teeth. He met with Chairman Kenny Walk, and a dream was realised. Pat was manager of Hibernian. Surprise, surprise, surprise. To manage a team like Hibs, of course, you must have cash in hand. And directors must realise only one man leads a band. No funds were made available, no new players signed. So in the year of 1984, our champion resigned. A scholar and a gentleman is our man Pat. Thousands of Hibs fans will testify to that. He arrived at Easter Road in 1963. He gave much joy and pleasure for everyone to see. He's a friend to many of you out there, and also a friend of mine. Gentlemen, I give you Pat Stanton, a legend in his time.
Well done.
Pat Stanton, obviously when I joined him, was one of the great names in Scottish football, and certainly I was not disappointed when I played with him, because then I had a chance to admire his skill. But also Pat had a very sort of wry sense of humour, and he exploited that very, very often. And one time we set him up, actually. Pat used to wear this raincoat when the programme Columbo was emerging in America in the sort of middle 70s. He used to wear it to training, of course, and the players would give him a bit of stick, but of course Pat, determined as he was, would decide that, call me Columbo if you like, but I'm going to wear this raincoat. So that there was a programme starting on Radio 4 at the time, which was hosted by George Farm, which used to bring in a personality and interview them about their prospects for that game on a Saturday. So we were sitting in the North British Hotel in Edinburgh, and Pat was a guest on that day. And we got Big Roy Barry, who could put on a good English accent, to phone up. So they get through to the programme, of course, and it's George Farm says, another caller here, Big Joe Barry from who lives in Pennycook. And of course, Big Roy says to him, hello there, Pat, and get the accents messed up, so he put on this Irish accent. Hello there, Pat. It says, now you're one of the great players in Scottish football. Do you think it's important what people wear off the park? Of course, Pat's saying, well, it's important, he said, but at the end of the day, it's what you do on the park that counts, and we shouldn't concern ourselves too much. But there's a rumour going about in Edinburgh, Pat, that you look like Columbo. And of course, Pat's straining. He said, what do you mean? Well, you wear this dirty old raincoat to training all the time. And of course, George Farm, he was into hysterics at the time, because he didn't want anybody to know, of course, that this caller might have been known. So Pat started saying, I know those people in the background, that's the Hibs squad at the present time, you know. And of course, this hail of laughter came from the background, and the caller was cut off immediately. But this dinner tonight, of course, is in honour of Pat, and there's going to be many great names from the Hibernian past that I'll talk to in informal conversation, and I'm sure they'll reveal one or two things about Pat that you, the punter, didn't know about. Joe, you were a great player with both England and Italy. Why the great affection for Hibs?
Well, Hibs was my first club when I started playing football, and you never get away from that, Tony. You know, your first club is always your first love. And what the supporters done for me when I was a kid, say 16, 17, when I started in the team, they really gave us support, which was badly needed, you know, and I really enjoyed it then.
Well, what special memories of Easter Road? What particular games spring to mind when you think back in your past there?
Special memories was, I'd reckon, the Peebles game when I scored 9.
9 goals?
9 goals, yeah.
It took me a season to score that.
In the one game, why it was a special memory, because what used to rile me up and get my adrenaline going was the media, newspapers used to print maybe on the Wednesday or Thursday before the game that the centre-half wasn't going to give you a kick at the ball, man, you know. And from then, being a kid, it used to rile me. And by the time Saturday came at 3 o'clock, I was ready to go. I was like a wound-up clock, you know, just let me off.
Ready to unspring, yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, I was just putting it in the net. and I got to 9 and they were saying, you better slow up, Joe. I says, no, the game's no finished yet, the referee's no blow the whistle.
Obviously, we were here to honour Pat Stanton, and of course Pat was a great Hibs player and Scotland player. Where do you rank him in the players that you've played against and alongside?
Pat was a very, how can you put it, class stuck out of Pat a mile. He played the ball, he had a great vision of the game, if you know what I mean. He'd pull the ball down nice and he'd play it to the wing nice and he'd get it back. And he was a playmaker. In every sense of the word, Tony, every sense of the word, he was a playmaker. And he went from there to Celtic, and I was surprised actually, because I thought he'd have finished his days with Hibs, you know. But he got a few honours with Celtic, and then he became manager of Hibs, which I was very sorry to see him resign from, because I think if he'd have stayed there a little bit longer, he would have got a chance.
Also, one other great Hibs favourite you were involved with as a manager in your latter years was Eddie Turnbull, the very eloquent Eddie.
Our Ned.
Our Ned. How did you feel being...
Very quiet man.
Very quiet man.
I was, yeah. You bastard, get away from you. Very quiet man Ned was, aye.
Yeah. Any particular fond memories of Eddie?
Eddie, how could I put it? I played with Eddie to start with, right? And he kept me right on the field as far as shouting was concerned. And when he shouted, you heard him. And then he became, I trained under Eddie, and he was very hard, which was a good grounding for me, as you put it. If you're grounded that way and get good discipline about your play, you become a good player. Which possibly, by the way, lads, if you're going to watch this at Albion Rovers, I'll tell you, I'm telling the truth, if you don't agree and don't listen to coaches and managers, you'll never get anywhere. Carry on, Tony.
Right. I mean, obviously you played with some great characters at the Hibs. Any funny stories about some of those great characters?
Well, it was funny when Ned, Eddie Turnbull, took over the trainer, and God rest him, Willie Orman was, he was still playing at the time. And Willie came to me and he says, Joey, he says, did you hear? He says, that's Eddie getting, he's the coach now. He says, next year we're okay. He says, I've played with him. He says, we'll not get any training at all. The first 2 days, Willie's over the wall, spewing his guts out. He says, you bastard, Ned. He says, you're killing us. There's a funny story too about Willie Orman. I'll never forget that. I'd been there 4 seasons. I think I scored about 160 goals or something.
4 seasons?
Yeah. And he says to me, Joe, he says, I hope you don't mind me asking, he says, but what do you make a week here? I says, well, usual. I says, £12. He says, for 4 seasons? I says, yeah. He says, well, see this year, he says, ask for a rise. So I went up the stairs, usual. I just signed to play football, which we'd done years ago, and there was no really money involved. I just enjoyed playing the game. And he goes up the stairs, and this is in the back of my mind that Willie Orman said, ask for a rise. So I goes in front, and Shuey Shaw goes rest him, and wee Harry Swan, the chairman, they're standing there. Well, Joe, there's the foremost, son, just sign there. I says, no, I'm not signing it. I want a rise. And wee Harry Swan, he looked at me like that, he goes, you're what? I says, I want a rise. He says, what did you want? And it caught me, because I hadn't a clue. I said, a £5. Give me a £5. I'll sign the form for £5. Oh, he says, I don't know about that. He says, we'll have to think about it. So I comes down the stair again, wee Willie says to him, well, he says, did you get the fiver? I says, no. They're thinking about it. But 2 days later, Tony, in the paper, we can't meet Baker's demands. They were telling me to cheer in. I didn't want to go.
So the secret was, if Hibs had paid you that fiver, you might have been still there. You might have been still there.
I would have still been there, yeah.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much for the time given, and we hope you enjoy your night
It's been a
tonight.
pleasure,
And the memory for me, I mean, I played with you as a player, and you were a great player, and obviously at the time, I saw you kissing the turf at Easter Road.
Well,
Thanks very
Tony,
much.
by the time you become my age, you know,
I'll be
give you the
40
same
stone,
memories.
probably.
You'll be 36.
Thank you very much, Joe Baker.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think coming from the part of Edinburgh I came from, and I think it was always your ambition to play for the Hibs, and when it did happen, you were very proud. You know, it was something that you'd always thought about, but you never maybe really thought it would come about. But when it did, it was terrific.
I mean, obviously during that time as well, you played with many great players and some great characters. Who in your estimation was the best player out of that group that you played with?
Well, I think over the years, Hibs have had some great players, and I've managed to either play against or with them. I remember one of my early games, when about my first team game, I actually played against Gordon Smith. And Gordon Smith to me was, I actually hadn't seen much of him playing, but I'd heard my father and my brothers always talking about him. But my experience, I thought Willie Hamilton was one of the best players I ever saw. Marvellous talent. Maybe a bit unfortunate he didn't use the talent to his best, but there was. Every time you think about the way he played, you got a good feeling when you saw him play.
And also the characters. There must be some funny stories with some of the players that you played with in Easter Road in your time, excluding me.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything. But, you got all silly things happening. But I remember, funny, this is St. Patrick's Day, but I remember we were playing in Iceland and we had an Irish referee, and he came in before the game, and the normal procedure, the referee inspects the boots and things like that. And then just as he was leaving the dressing room, he said, well, remember lads, have a good game, play the whistle, and remember, he said, accept my decisions whether I give them or not. And you had to think hard about that. And he had a good game, the referee.
Yeah. I mean, it remembers me, you talked about European trips, one of the great ones when I remember Johnny Hamilton Dingy, the Glaswegian, and wee Dingy was going shopping one day, and he asked if he could get a loan of Tommy Younger's jacket. I don't know what quite he was going to do with it, but I have my suspicions. Of course, wee Rookie was a special friend of you. You knew him at school and right through. I mean, Jimmy was a great player, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, Jimmy was an underrated player with the Hibs. Very good player, great knowledge of the game. But I knew Jimmy. We went to the same school. Jimmy, his debut was at 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Outstanding ability, and he was unlucky that he got a bad injury early in his career. And it was quite a bad one, but he overcame all that. But it happened just at a time in his career when he really could have done without it. But he still became a great player.
And obviously the special memory for you and Jimmy, of course, was the 1972 League Cup final.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And one of what I remember about that game, we got in the team bus at Easter Road, but as we went up Easter Road, a wee kid standing at the side of the street threw a brick and smashed the back window of the bus. And it was a freezing cold day going through that day. And normally you're all sitting in the bus and it's warm, but there's nobody sleeping in that bus. By the time we got to Hampden, we were all wide awake. I think maybe Eddie thought he smashed the window a bit more,
That's probably a bit of that. If they'd known that, probably been throwing bricks every week at team buses as a part of success. As was evidenced last close season there, Pat, the Hibs fans are a special breed. They had a special relationship with you. How do you feel about them?
Oh, well, the fans have been great to me over the years. Even I've been away from Easter Road a long time now, and they're still very good to me, And that's what made, well, you saw last summer what happened. I felt sorry for what happened what might have happened. But these people just dug their heels in and refused to let go. It came right out of the blue. But really, I felt hard sorry for the people.
Well, that's the reason we're here tonight, Pat. The football supporters, the people that love Pat Stanton. We're going to honour you tonight, and also we hope this is a great success, and the video is a great success as well. Thanks very much, Pat, for all you've done for Scottish football and for Hibs.
Thanks, Tony.
1972 was an eventful year for football. Celtic, totally against the run of play, of course, scored 6 breakaway goals as they defeated dear old Hibernian in the Scottish Cup final at Hampden Park. Glasgow Rangers became the second Scottish side to win a major European tournament, when in Barcelona they beat Moscow Dynamo in the Cup Winners' Cup final. Jammy as ever, England scraped home against Scotland at Hampden, when a single goal from Arsenal's Alan Ball was enough to shatter the Tartan army and cause those lion rampants to flutter at half-mast. But, much more importantly, and with the old year drawing to a close, Hibs were back at Hampden. Again, their opponents were Celtic, this time in the Scottish League Cup final. It was to be one of the greatest days in the history of the Easter Road Club.
Stanton up on his feet quickly for the return pass. Stanton coming through. Gordon trying to give him the return, doesn't succeed. It's clear, but only as far as Brownlee. Edwards back to Brownlee. Brownlee making room for himself, working his way through. Good tackle by Hay. He'd still have it though. Tenacious Edwards. Back to Black. Long forward toward Gordon. Free kick to him just outside the box. One would imagine that Alec Edwards would somehow try to mastermind this situation. O'Rourke and Stanton there. O'Rourke leaves it to Edwards. Edwards chips it forward. Chance for Stanton. It's a goal! Stanton scores! 15 minutes in the second half. A classic free kick situation. On a O'Rourke dummy, Edwards lobbed forward. Stanton walking round the keeper, banged the ball into the net from not an easy angle. And that's the first goal of the match. Superbly taken by Hibs skipper Pat Stanton. Headed down by Black. Good racing for it. Breaks to McCluskey. Comes to O'Rourke. And Cropley really moving. McGreen challenging well though. Fine play by Danny McGreen under real pressure there. My goodness, Alec Cropley certainly shifted to get to that one. Duncan infield. Lovely ball to Stanton. Stanton forcing his way through. Stanton for Hibs outside the box, dispossessed. Breaks to the right. Edwards thinks about a shot, lets one go, breaks towards Brownlee. Connolly onto it quickly. Brownlee challenging. Connolly beats him nicely. Up towards the halfway line. Black and Hood thrusting for it. Comes to Edwards. What a game now. Edwards takes the ball for a long walk, keeps possession though, finally loses it. This is McCluskey, the hard-working McCluskey stepping in. Beats Edwards beautifully. Head down the line. Shadler challenging. McCluskey up very quickly. Shadler there. Back to Herriot. A tremendous game now. Picked up by Stanton. Stanton out to Edwards. Never stands still for a second. Edwards back to Stanton. Beautiful ball. O'Rourke's clear. Stanton lofting it across. O'Rourke. What a goal! What a goal! Magnificent goal by Jim O'Rourke. He's away behind the goal. There he is. A superb cross from Stanton. Edwards, Stanton, O'Rourke. 2-0. 21 minutes played in the second half. A magnificent goal. Brownlee punching it down deep into the Celtic half. Headed down by McCluskey. Stanton with a touch. Shadler. Out to Duncan. Duncan cutting infield, still has it. Loses it to Macari, but referee says a free kick. Cropley taking a bit of time before he takes it. Shoots it away to the far side to Brownlee. Brownlee lofting it across. Stanton's there. Chance for Gordon. Stopped on the line. O'Rourke. Another defence-splitting move by Hibernian. superb move. Hood. Black. Back to Harriet. Gordon. Stanton. Stanton. Typical Stanton pass to the outside of the boot to Duncan. Duncan making a beeline for the goal. Overrunning it though. Hay stepping in. Out to Connolly. And there's a chance here. Dalglish played onside by Shadler. Dalglish should score, and he does. Magnificent goal by Celtic's best forward. Minute to play. Now Duncan still has it. That's Celtic's throw. Danny McGrain miscuing. Throw to Hibbs. Moving inside the last minute of the match. Stanton. Down towards the corner flag. Who's up first? Stanton. Edwards. Astonishing ball control by Stanton and Edwards there. Right on the byline. And a free kick to Celtic. Referee saying to Hay and Edwards, shake hands. The handshakes are genuine. The tensions and pressures of a cup final reflected there, both players. It's been an extremely clean and sporting match, and it's almost over. Celtic's throw. And it's time up now. I make it time up. Mr. McKenzie looking at his watch. Ball lobbed forward there. And it's all over. And at last, Hibs win the Scottish League Cup. Magnificent effort by Hibs. Stanton going across there with the team over to where the Hibs supporters are in the terracing. Celtic, magnificent losers. What a pity that one team has to lose in such a superb game. A fine adornment to all that's best in Scottish football. A fine effort by Hibs, the happiest player there, Pat Stanton, leading his team over to where the Hibs supporters are massed. And there they are, waving to them. Great jubilation. Third time lucky for Hibernian. Beaten in the 1950-51 final by Motherwell. Beaten in the 68-69 final by Celtic. They've at last come good and won the Scottish League Cup for the very first time in their history. Celtic standing patiently to the right. Every Celtic player is shaking the hand of every Hibs player. And Hibs are absolutely beside themselves with joy. A magnificent second half performance in which they scored two fine goals, then lost one, held on, and they've won the cup. Jock Steen congratulating all the Hibs players down below us as they come in. Steen in a handshake for every one of the Hibs players. Pat Stanton going in to get the cup.
United we stand here, divided we fall. We play for each other when we're on the ball. truly are. We play for the Ivies. We're no near and far. Our fans are the greatest. They cheer us each game. We're Turnbull's tornadoes. Hibern's the name. Heads, heads, heads for the drop. Our team's the greatest, they never give up. Heads, heads, the boys in the green. The best brand of football the world's ever seen. Heads, heads, the boys in the green. The best brand of football the world's ever seen.
When I was in first year at school, Pat was in fourth year, him being older than me. Pat was right half and captain of the firsts, and I was a scrubber in the wee team. But eventually, I teamed up with him, and the rest is history, I imagine, Tony.
Of course, you must know, having played with him for something like 15 or 16 years, you must know his special attributes.
Oh, Pat had great attributes. He had no pace, he had no left foot, he couldn't tackle on his left side, he had mince pie and beans for his tea every night. But in saying that, he was the best, or the second best player I've ever played with. Joe Baker was the best, but Pat was the second
Joe
best.
Baker was the best, yeah. Of course, you played with some great players at Easter Road at the time, and Pat has mentioned Willie Hamilton. Who in your mind, apart from Joe, was the real star in those days?
Laying my... Pat was a better player. Pat, all round. Pat served the Hibs for many, many years, and to me was a credit to the game and to football. If you're a wee laddie and you say, go and watch somebody, watch Pat Stanton. His attributes, to me, were excellent for any kid to try and follow.
And in all the great characters you played at Easter Road, Jimmy, any funny stories about any particular one of them?
There's a guy called Tony Higgins. It was his
The big
birthday.
slim boy, the big slim
Yes,
outside left,
it was his birthday in Benidorm, and he got a litre of lager, and he poured it over Wilson off his head. That was a good one, Tony.
That's right. He was assistant manager at the time, I thought.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, Tony, there's too numerous to mention.
Yeah. Do you think I resembled you for pace at any stage?
Well, sometimes when we were going backwards, Tony, you know.
Now, you obviously played in the League Cup final, the winning side, Arthur, and you have some great memories at Easter Road. What particular memory do you have in the European nights?
European nights, I suppose it would be the game when we beat Sporting Lisbon 6-1. I would say that was the best night we had, you know.
Did any of your crosses get in the goal that night?
No, I hit a few pickpockets, but never mind, you know.
We've also here tonight, we've got Big John Brownlee, known as Onion, who scored that famous goal in the semi-final of the League Cup tie. John, would you like to talk us through it?
Talk you through it, it's that long ago, Tony, I can't remember it.
Remember you got it on the right-hand side.
Got it on the right-hand side.
And Eddie said, get up the effing park.
Aye. I only did what I could do with the ball, that saved me getting back. I just stick it in the net, that saved me running back.
Now, you and me, Alec Edwards, of course, had a great affinity as players and also off the park because you were drinking mates. Any stories about wee Alec?
There's a few stories, but I don't think the people would like to hear about him because they think he's a nice little chap.
What special memories do you have of that time?
With the Hibs?
Yes.
Obviously, the Scottish Cup finals when we played the three and got beat, even with you scoring, Tony, we still couldn't manage to win the game, you know. That was one of I never played in the Scottish Cup final before, so in all my 20-odd years of playing football, I think that was my biggest highlight of my career, I would think, anyway. I won a trophy with Dundee, but playing for my own team, you know, I mean, it's more important.
Now, obviously, you played against Pat Stanton on many occasions. How did you rate him as a player?
Oh, he was a tremendous player. It was terrible to play against, but he was a tremendous player. Great fan, but first-class player.
And also, of course, he played at Easter Road with some of the great characters in Scottish football.
Yourself?
Any special stories about them?
Characters at Easter Road. Well, Ali McLeod was a character. I think if Ali was... is Ali coming tonight? Nobody knows if Ali McLeod's coming tonight. He was a real character. But I was quite fortunate to play with a lot of good players at Easter Road. Characters under Eddie Turnbull was sometimes a bit of a hardship because you weren't allowed to play, you had to play real football under Eddie, you know. But I don't know. I think in general, Arthur Duncan, John Brownlee, John Blackley, they all had their own characters.
Yeah, but remember the great story when George Best came and we were playing at St Mirren, and at the end of the game, the manager was making accusations that a certain player in the team wasn't passing to George Best. And the Monday morning, of course, it was revealed that that player was Ali McLeod.
Correct.
And I confronted him in the dressing room. Ali, were you the person that wasn't passing to George Best? You know, and Ali, of course, looked at me and says, he couldn't lace my boots. Remember?
That's true, though. That's true. That was typical Ali McLeod. That's what I'm saying. He was a character, Ali, you know.
And also, I mean, I'll never, for you, George, I'll never forget the time we were playing in the Scottish Cup quarter-final against Hearts at Easter Road. And you scored that day, remember?
Yeah, I've got the ball. The late Tom Hart gave me the ball after the match, and I've still got it in the house.
Remember your comment before the game that day as you stood out at 5 to 3 at the dressing room with the ball in your hand. Can you talk us through it?
Well, my philosophy when I played against the Hearts was this is just a walk in the park for us. So it was good for me. You know, I didn't play in the Hearts as a sort of local rivals didn't really particularly bother me. But scoring the goal in that game, and Big Gordon scored the second goal. Big Gordon Ray scored the second goal.
I made both of them, that's right.
That's you made both of them as usual. You know. Obviously, it wasn't a floodlight game, you know. But no, it was great memories for me, and I was happy to take us through. Or one of my goals, or my goal, was helped us get through to the semi-finals. You know.
Well, thanks very much, George. It's been great to see you tonight, and we're all here to honour Pat, and we hope that it goes very well, and the video as well. Thank you.
God bless the Hibs.
And you were involved in that swap over when you actually came to Easter Road and Pat went to Parkhead. Do you want to tell us about it?
I think if I'd known it was Pat, Tony had asked for a hell of a lot more money. I thought it was you that was coming to Parkhead at the time. Maybe that's why I get so little money.
He also said that Jockstein had told Pat to put a coat over his head, is that right?
Well, I came out of Celtic Park after having signed for Hibs, and when I was walking down through the car park, I saw Alan Gordon and Pat Stanton, and I was just a naive 25-year-old, 24-year-old, and I wondered why they were going up to the office with the coats over their head. I didn't realise I was swapping for another human being. A legend. A legend.
A legend as well. And of
course, so it was rather difficult at the start of my career, you know. I think they booed me before I got to Easter Road.
The players?
Players, fans, Eddie Turnbull.
We also have Bobby Smith here, who was, of course, plied his trade at Easter Road for quite a long time. Too long, many Hibs fans would say. But of course, you enjoyed it, and of course, as a kid, you must have enjoyed the skills of Pat Stanton.
That's right. Pat was a great inspiration to a lot of young players. Great professional. Taught you a lot. Great ambassador for Hibernian Football Club.
And also, you had a great relationship with Eddie Turnbull. Remember that quite vividly, Bobby.
Exactly. Yes. Just a love-hate relationship, me and Eddie, yeah. He didn't like my bangles and bubbles.
Hair dryers.
Hair dryers.
I used to actually remember it used to be after some of the games that Jackie was like me, and Jackie was a real character, and we both relied on our personalities and our looks, but you and Willie Murray and Alistair Brazil used to spend a bit of time at the Mirror, didn't you?
Yeah, we get near from Ali. Ali was obviously a good-looking chap. I don't know if he's coming here or not, I don't know. But the hairdryer used to be blasting every half an hour in his training sessions. So.
And of course, we all played with George Best, not in the literal sense, but we all played with George Best. And what were your special memories of George, Bobby?
I didn't play him, Tony.
No, that's a good enough memory. Never rely on Jim Hossack. Jim Hossack's a terrible foundation man.
George Best came after I left.
And Jackie, of course, and I was telling the story earlier about, in conversation with George Stewart, about Ali McLeod's remarks about George.
About Ali being a better player?
Yeah. Did you think so?
I thought,
well, it was fun.
It was a wee bit quicker. He would have left the can at the Rangers game. He wouldn't have picked it up because it wasn't a lager. Ali McLeod was a great player as well. Very underestimated.
Murdo, you spent most of your playing career with Celtic, of course, but you're now at Easter Road. Are you enjoying the reception you've received from the Hibs fans?
Yes, it's been a great reception. They've been very loyal this season, despite the results we've had. And travelling support's been very good as well. You know, it's been behind the team. So we just hope that we'll be able to reward them in the future.
And obviously that as a kid like me, you grew up in the Glasgow area. You obviously must have admired Pat Stanton as a football supporter.
Well, obviously at that time, Hibs were one of the big forces in Scottish football.
And I was only 14 stone then, remember?
I was going back a long time. But when you're a young boy and you're looking across at such a good Hibs side, and you look at a player like Pat Stanton, he was like one of the continental sweepers just now. So good on the ball, comfortable on the ball, great passer.
and obviously the game nowadays needs players like Pat Stanton.
Well, of course, with Andy Gillingham here as well. I mean, Andy, you're a great hero to the football supporters in Edinburgh. One section of them anyway. Pat Stanton had that special rapport with them. What's special about the Hibs supporters?
I think they stick by, like you said. Meadow said they followed us through thick and thin. We've had a lot of bad times this season, a lot of bad times this last few years, but they keep turning out, and I think they deserve a wee turn. But we could do with a few Pat Stantons come and give us a shot, you know.
And obviously enjoyed your time. One of the great things that the Pat Stanton era was the time they had in Europe. You must have enjoyed experience in Europe with Hibs as well recently.
Oh, the European thing was unbelievable. I've never won a trophy in my life and then end up playing in Europe, and we had four great games. We've done video telling and that. I've never experienced winning a trophy. Murray's obviously got more experience than that. But Pat Stanton's one of these players. If you can get the likes of Pat Stanton, George Stewart, all these players that have done it years ago, if you could get them in the team now, you're not doing too bad, you know.
Never mentioned Tony Higgins there.
Who's that?
Did he ever play? Did he play?
Who's Tony Higgins?
Is he a goalkeeper?
I don't know. Is he a wall? He's a back four.
No.
Our direction I used to be a two-man wall, extended about 40 feet across the park. But so therefore you've got a message of encouragement for the Hibs fans in the future then.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it can't get any worse. We can only get better.
It's a pleasing thing.
It is really. It can only get better.
Naturally, that evening at the Sheraton brought memories flooding back of the dramatic events of the summer of 1990, when the very existence of Hibernian Football Club was threatened. But Hibs supporters fought and won what amounted to the greatest victory in the history of a famous club. Hibernian will never die, not when their fans are counted among the finest and most loyal on earth. For generations of Highbees who across the decades had stood in those dear old Easter Road terracings, admiring the skills of the green and white giants of yesteryear, and for those kids born to uphold the great tradition, it was an emotional time, a time when sorrow and deep anxiety mingled with great joy, a time when Hibernian fans of all ages realised just how much this grand old club meant to them.
My heart was broken. My heart was broken. Sorrow, 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 sorrow. My heart was broken. My heart was broken.
quickly coming forward. Slips Dave Johnson. That's a good ball. Bremner. The great save. Smith. Smith at long last for Hibernian after 39 minutes makes Hibs 1, Dundee 0. Crossfield ball, but firmly struck by Shadler, but Brownlee keeps it in. He's got the time and the space to do it. Edwards. McLeod! Oh, sheer bit of football brilliance by Ali McLeod. The crowd rise to the Hibs centre. 8 minutes gone in the second half. Hibs 2, Dundee 0. Robinson in a bit of trouble. Hibs beginning to capture that midfield area. Duncan in the middle, number 3. 4 minutes to go, plus a little bit of injury time. Stewart trying to knock it in, but it's hooked away by Stanton. Loose. And Hibs exploit the chance. McLeod lighting up the shot, and it's just kneed away by Johnston. McLeod again showing how dangerous he is. And the quick corner. Brownlee. And it's finally gone home for Pat Stanton. He's delighted with that. Hibs have gone into an unassailable lead by 4 goals to 0 with 3 minutes remaining.
Steen again. Matheson trying to keep the player between the Rangers goal, or away from the Rangers goal, but corner. It's Quinn. Stevenson. Beautiful shot by Stevenson, but the marking of the Rangers defence there, very, very suspect. Stevenson unmarked as he shot the ball with his left foot right into the back of the net.
Quinn with the corner, flicked on and a header in by McGraw, and a fine goal. Equalises the score, and at last Hibernian have broken their duck by a good goal from the corner by Pat Quinn, headed on by Steen, and Alan McGraw there. Alex Scott hugging the touchline. Steen heads and he scores! Excellent goal. Steen still hanging in, clinging into that ball. On it goes to Cormac. And a goal, surely it is. And fine goal, all credit to Steen. He hung in after that ball when Stewart should have put it into touch. But Cormac, given credit for the smart way he allowed that ball to go through his legs, swivel. 3-1 in favour of Hibs. 20 minutes of the second half gone. Ball put back under the tracks of Steen. He's got a chance. Cormac's up with him. Cormac striding in a goal. Oh, he loses his chance. Numbers there. Harold's out of a goal. It's goal. Oh, what trouble Dundee defence was in there.
Brownlee to Edwards. O'Rourke. Keeper came out, Hazel. Well, that was a mistake in the middle of the field here. Edwards pushed it quickly through to O'Rourke. Hazel, who was the only Hibs man up there, wasn't properly marked, and he had an easy job to score. Hibs throw. Taken by Hazel. Edwards. Tremendous goal by Edwards. Edwards at an angle. Appeared not to have a line of shot at all, but he certainly smacked that one in with the side of his foot. 2-0 for Hibs.
Edwards, master of these dead ball situations. Hibs 5 men in the box. In goes Stanton. He's done it again.
Just listening to all of us say tonight, lads, I must have been some bloody player, I'll tell you. First of all, I must thank you all for coming tonight. First of all, the punters are always first. I must thank the committee for all the hard work they've done. And a special mention, I don't think the rest of the committee will be poor if I mention the work that Jim Hossack put in. He worked very hard for this. But I'm also responsible. But, you know, football's all about opinions. We all have our heroes. My hero is Joe Baker. But I had some great times with Hibs. This is a night I'll always remember. We're all getting a bit older, we're all a bit greyer, some are bigger than we should be. I don't think that I could get in that jet then. But there's just sure signs that you're getting old when you find yourself watching a blue movie and you're following the story, you know. Anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed the night as much as I have. I'll certainly remember this for a long time. And just once again, thanks for coming. Thank you.
Well done.